of us and with us, around us, as us. So that is what I claim for this time together today, for this open forum at the Oakland Center for Spiritual Living. That this is God in action. That truly there is divine order, there is divine harmony, there is openness, that everything flows with ease and grace as we tell the story of the Oakland Center for the past few months and where we are and where we want to go. Giving thanks, knowing that God is all of it and the more. We bless this time together. And so it is. So if we can have the next slide to show you the agenda, which I should have showed you first, and we already have one down. So I'd like to welcome up Maureen French, our newly minted practitioner and president of the Board of Trustees, for the welcome and intentions.
And you can use the Oh, no. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. It's wonderful to be here in person for our open forum since the pandemic. So it's nice to see everybody here. Thank you for showing your support for our center and wanting to find out what's going on behind the scenes. It's good to see you here. And our intention is to continue with this unfolding of our greatest yet to be, really. I mean, we have, welcomed in our new senior minister, Reverend Sunshine, who has been doing amazing work, so thank you so much. And continuing to ride that wave. And you'll see as Reverend Sunshine goes through the slides about how we have been, growing and expanding our center, and also places where we could use some more love and circulation around. So without further ado, welcome, and we look forward to your questions and to any ideas that you may have to share with us. So thank you.
Thanks so much, Maureen. So it made sense for me to do the overview of the community now that I've been here for a few months and I've got some of it under my belt. I can't say all of it, but I have been doing monthly reports, having all of the leaders of the different areas to send their reports in to me. They were already generating reports, but so that I could then report to the board our standing and what's going on and organize it in a way where we could tell a story. And so this, what we're going to present to you today might look a little different than what has been presented in the past. Because, go back please, I'm not ready for that slide. Thank you. I just wanted to give an overview to set the picture and the tone because people's attention goes to the screen. So I want you here with me because I'm talking to you. And we want to tell a story about where we are. Y'all know where we've been and where we're intending to go. And all of that takes time, it takes effort, it takes energy, it takes support, of which we need from you. So there probably will be questions. We want it to be interactive. Somebody said to me that they were talking to a member and they said, oh, that open forum, the annual meeting is so boring. Well, it might be, because it's the operation of the center, but it's the reality of running a center. And so we need to reframe that. So I'm going to, and we're going to intend to make this more engaging and more interactive over time. There is information we need to present, but also at the same time, I might throw a question at you or ask you something. And at the end of this, as you'll see on there, that next to the last one is community engagement and dialogue, because we have several questions that we want to pose to you for you to be thinking about so that we can get some information, because we're doing this together. It's not just one or a few of us. So can I ask any of the board members that are here to stand so you know who they are? I know you know who they are. And Sam is standing up in the back. There's Sam Ladione at the back. There's Reverend Sally Bartholomew right here, Deborah Jackson, Elka Moritz and Beth Van Arkel and Maureen is our president, and we're missing Sanford Livingston, who's the vice president, and help me out, and Debbie Morris, who is our treasurer. I did. Did I say her name? Oh, I want to. Thank you, though, for checking. I'm going to go here to the podium so that I can put these notes down and see if I can do it that way. If I put this down, is it going to make like a whole lot of noise? Can you hear me okay? Yeah, okay, great. All right, now we can go to the next slide. I'll just go one at a time if you'll wait for me. So you'll know a lot of this, but it's good to see it in writing. We have two weekly services on Sundays in person and live streaming. Weekly in person, it's been ranging, and again, this is intended to be for April to June, but you know, since I've been here, let's say, for the beginning of the year, we've averaged 65 to 95 people here in service, which I'm told is an increase. I haven't done the comparison, so this is good. What we know is we have lots of people coming back. I hear that all the time, whatever that means, I'm coming back. And we also have visitors coming. So we have a good influx of folks. And the weekly online attendance ranges from 40 to 80 people. And we want to grow that. I want to grow that. I'm sure we want to grow that too, and get a handle on the analytics so we know who's piping in, where they're coming from, what their status is. Wednesdays are all virtual. Our weekly attendance is from 9 to 22 people. It's very consistent. It's been going on a while, and it's a mainstay. Paul was the host, as you know, Paul Pursuti. He stepped back. Reverend Sally Bartholomew, thank you very much, has stepped forward in a powerful way. She's a great host. And here recently, she presented a model for there to be a three-legged stool of herself, Paul, who agreed, so we're bringing him back, and he's really loving it, you know, Paul. And I will also be there as a host on Fifth Wednesdays. And also, Maureen French is going to step in as a host at the end of the summer. So we have a great and mighty crew, and I'd love for us to grow that service, because the attendance, because it's really quite fabulous with the different speakers and delving down into what we're all about. Next slide is our Board of Trustees. And I just introduced, oh, I'm sorry, maybe my thing misprinted. Okay, I wanted to talk about our people. Oh, hang on. Is this in order? Oh, I don't know. Okay, well, here's our Board of Trustees. Okay, I'm gonna wait a second. There's our Board of Trustees, whom I just introduced, and it's great that we have new pictures. We've had several events, and we've integrated some of the pictures in of our different events, so there are all of our trustees. Let's give them a hand. Now I'm confused. What's the next slide? Maybe I should wait for you. Staff. Is that the next slide? Okay. This was an attempt to show you our people. So let me tell you how this was organized. When I was looking at the reports that I've been putting together for the board, it made sense to have ecclesiastics and everything. That means all things spiritually related, and then administrative and the different areas. So much of this falls within the ecclesiastical area, and which involves our volunteers and the different committees and that you know, and then there's administration. So that's how this was organized, and then we show you some images afterwards. So this was my attempt to recognize, oh, now I know the slide you're talking about, because there was a summary slide that said our people, right? So before she goes to our people, sorry for the confusion. We didn't do a dress rehearsal, so be gentle with us. This is our staff. We have 4 staff, myself, Constance Chapman, whom you know, who is our administrative and education coordinator, Dow Becker, who's our bookkeeper, and Peggy Cotton, who serves as a part-time administrative assistant, and you can give some love. Now, can you show our people? I want to show that slide. I guess I tried to print the deck, and it didn't print in order somehow, I guess. So we have the 9 Board of Trustees, our 4 staff, both slides I just showed you. We have our ministerial team, which I'll show you shortly, which are 5 ministers. So this is new when I realized that besides myself, we have 4 other ministers. It's like, whoa, you know, that's lovely. Let me pull that team together. Plus we have 2 ministerial candidates. So we have a whole ministerial team that you'll hear more about. We have the leadership team is what I'm calling it, which are the leads and the co-leads of the various areas. We have 95% or probably more than that of this organization thrives on volunteerism. And so that is really key. And then we have our members, we have our youth and our young adults, which I wanted to distinguish. They're members too in our family, and we want to highlight our youth and family ministry. So those are our people. You've seen this slide with the pictures of the board and the staff. Now let's see if we can get to the rest. We should be in order, which is our ministerial team. Right, so we have, and some of them are in the house. I'll have them stand in just a moment. We have myself, we have Reverend Jerry Carter, whom you all know, Reverend Catherine Sachs, whom you all know, Reverend Aikia Param is newly back with us, Reverend Sally Bartholomew, and then our 2 ministerial candidates are Elena Hutchinson and Teresa Gardner, both of whom graduated here recently. Teresa has passed all of her written exams, and so, you know, yay for them. So who's in the house that's on that slide? Will you stand? Lovely. Thank you. Okay, I need to follow the order. What's next? Okay. So this was my attempt to, you know, within the sphere of here's Oakland Center, you know, I broke it up, the groups, into different segments. So these are groups that help our services to thrive. Remember, I started out with Wednesday and Sunday services, and obviously it's beyond that too. We have our, what I'm calling greeters, ushers, greeters. I would like it to be called greeters, ushers. And that's led by Gabriella Condi. Our membership is led by Reverend Aikia Param, which is newly booted up, and you'll hear more about that. Music is the awesome Andy Robbins, and visual media is Peggy Cotton. We have our announcer team, which supports our Sunday service. You hear them every Sunday. You heard them this morning, or heard Annie this morning. We have our practitioners here. We have youth and family led by Jackie Onipede, and then our nonprofit partners, Beth Von Arkel. So everything that's gonna come afterwards is a part of this slide. But if there's anyone whose name is up there, Robert's name is not up there. My apologies, Robert leads the announcers. My apology, Robert, please forgive me. So anyone's name who's up there or is not like Robert, please stand and give them some love. Okay. And now what follows should be a subset of this. Well, no, it's not. Okay. So more about our beloved community. I guess my thought was to, it was interesting to see how to lay this out for you. Loving Stewards of Mother Earth, led by Reinhard Jolie, and they had an Earth Day event, and they do regular garden care. The Diversity Circle, led by Doug Myers and Sri Devi, and we have a list that comes later in the deck of the events that they've had. And then there's the Social Justice Ministry. The names are not up there, my apology, which is led by Carmen West Jefferson, by Crystal Fry and Deborah Jackson, if I'm not mistaken. And what they've been doing is discussing DEI issues. They have had a book study with the Diversity Circle recently within this time period of the 4 Pivots, which was a 2-part series. So we're going to show you some slides from these areas. If there's anyone's name that I just called, if you're in the house, can you stand and get some love? I see Carmen, Deborah. Yay. Thank you. All right, next. Thank you, Constance, for helping to put all this together. Okay, so remember I talked about the summary slide. Greeters and ushers, basically what they do, as you know, has been to check in attendance when people come on Sunday service into our church management system called Breeze, which gives us data and analytics on our membership base. It's very important. And what it also helps us do is when we have guests that come, the visitors, now get an automated letter from me saying, welcome, thank you for coming, please come back. And we've caught up to everyone that has been visiting with us since I arrived in November. We had a bit of a backlog, so we had maybe 5 different letters going out to people because these people had been coming maybe once, and then we know through Breeze, that's why this database is so important, who is coming back. That's analytics for us. So whether they've been coming 1, 2, or 3 times, then I customized a letter to suit that, saying thank you for coming back, please come again, or what have you. So I am working towards transforming our greeter team, and I've added ushers. You know, back in the day, it was greeters, ushers, right? Where we passed the basket and what have you. And so I want to help move it less from check-in, still important to check in, so we need to find a way to continue to check in so that we have the analytics that we need. And also, this is what I call front of the house. When people come in the door, I would like to have them feel their arms our arms wrapped around them immediately. Larry Wyman does a great job because he stands and holds the door, like, you know, you can't go past him without greeting him. And the same for in here. So eventually I'd like to have greeters in here, welcoming people in, and if we need, you know, what I noticed, this is a gap, Maureen mentioned, that when the announcer says, is there anyone in the house that's been here for the first time? There's a scramble to go give them a packet. We have the packets, which will also be enhanced and revised, but not necessarily anybody to go get them and hand them out. So you see this lag of who's gonna do that, who's gonna do that? In my mind, it's the greeters, ushers, and so we're working towards shoring that up. We have an average of, through this time period, April through June, we have an average of 71 people that have come to visit us in person at Sunday service. These are visitors, is that right? Of everyone, okay. Yeah, that meshes with the other numbers I gave you, 65 to 90, so that works. 64 new visitors, 99 visitors who returned for the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th time, which is great, but that doesn't mean 99 people, right? It's 99 visitors who have been coming through that time period. So that's great. Next slide, please. Membership. So Reverend Aikia Param has recently become the membership coordinator. She and I have been working together to look at the materials that we are already in place, but everything's been on hold. We didn't have anybody in charge of that before. So we're we are thinking thoughtfully around how to put our arms around members, not only those of you in the house, but also, as you heard me say this morning, to extend the invitation for people to join us. Here's the trick, is people have a lot of places they can go to be members, to get inspiration. Now, some people are members in multiple communities, so we need to have an imperative and tell them why they should come join us. What does it mean to be a member at Oakland Center for Spiritual Living? So we're putting that information together, and we're going to have a membership campaign in September, and we're backing into when we need to have an orientation class for people to go to the class, find out what we're about, what it means for membership, so that they can join. So currently, on the roster, we have 144 members. We have that campaign I talked to you about. The materials are being reviewed. Stay tuned for what that looks like. And really, it's be a part of our family. We want you to be a part of this beloved community. And what does that mean? Also, there's virtual membership. I didn't put that on this slide, but what's in my consciousness is to make sure, to see how many people regularly attend, and if we can even extend membership virtually. What would that look like and what would that mean? But these days are hybrid, and they're gonna be. So we need to, in my mind, wrap our arms around the virtual space much more than we have. Next slide, please. Music and visual media. Andy does a wonderful job of organizing. All of this was organized before I got here, and it's still rolling. So on the first, second, and third, and fifth Sundays, we have Kev Choice, who is our musician in residence, is a way to look at it. And then on the first Sunday, it's Omega Ray. On the second Sunday, it was Luke Monfrank. That was today, and he wasn't here. And Vivica Fox, she's an actress. Vivica Hawkins filled in wonderfully. The third and fifth Sundays, there's usually a guest vocalist and sometimes a band. And then the fourth Sundays are Kenneth Cozy Arrington and Deb Santa Maria. Where's Andy? He left already. But let's give Andy some loves. Tossing that out to him. Next slide. Okay, this is a visual. Our practitioners, we have professional practitioners. I don't know the number right now. It's probably at least 25. It was more. We had one to leave, so it's probably, and then we had 4 to come. So, we have a number in the 20s of licensed practitioners. We finished our studies, and that's where we got our 4 newly licensed practitioners. And this slide could encompass a lot more. So I know I put on this slide some highlights of what the practitioners do, and I know that they do much more than that. The Ministry of Prayer, Praying Weekly, thank you, Dorothy Mendez is right here, keeps that going and has for many years. So they support classes like being a TA or an assistant, or even teaching classes and workshops, in-service activities and prayer, as you heard today, and compassionate care, I lump together, meaning if we have folks who are in transition, or our people need support, or they're sick or ill, that's where compassionate care is, yes. 32, we're in the 30s, yay. Okay, y'all can do better than that. Give that some love. Thank you for that, and thank you in particular, Reverend Jerry, for having her eye on excellence relative to the lead practitioners who hold the consciousness for the services, and making sure that the schedule is filled, and that if there's anyone who is in need, that the people that need to know that around compassionate care, that she's in charge of that. So thank you for that. Isn't that great? This is me and the practitioners at the installation, and you'll see behind me, I'm sorry, Reverend Jerry, my head was covering. You can see a little black back there. That was her robe. But isn't this lovely where we can have an updated new picture of our practitioners? So next slide. Youth and Family Ministries, I saw Jackie O come in. Let me just say I love you. And thank you for all you've done in youth and family over the years. And thanks to Diane. Let's give them both some love. Diane's right there. So this slide is intended just highlights to tell you about our young ones. We have, here are the categories: nursery, which is infants to toddlers, and maybe I got some of these ages wrong, but close enough, hopefully. And I tried to put, I did it, an average of how many come a month. It's a little difficult to average that out sometimes because, like Diane told me today, there were none today in her class set, but Jackie O had 6. So, it varies as to when they come. And, Youth and Family is closed on the 5th Sunday, which there is one in July. So we'll need to remind parents that the young ones either come in here or they can be over there with them. We just need some support. So the busy bees are roughly 5 to 9. And the tweens are 10 to 12. Then we have the teens, obviously 13 to 17. And, I could have went to 18, but they'd probably look at me crazy because, no, I'm not a teen anymore. I'm an adult. I'm a young adult. And Jackie O is really focusing on the young adults and building a program for them 18 to 25. So that's what that's about. Summer camp is happening now, July 8th through the 15th. We had 3 scholarships awarded and 5 attending, is that right, Jackie, from OCSL, so that's great. And then I put this last bullet on here to let you know that this is an issue that we're needing to deal with legally relative to LiveScan and working with anyone who is a youth or an elder. We're focusing on the youth, and we need, there's a larger group that we probably need to put through the LiveScan. We're doing this through the Department of Justice. It's quite a process, and we're working with our insurance company. So that's all I'm going to say about that. Just know that it's a serious thing that we're needing to do, and we have our eye on that. So thank you. Next slide. Nonprofit partners, I mentioned before, this is Beth Van Arkel's group. We acknowledged Beth's in the house. Thank you, Beth. And here's their schedule for 12 months. And there's a whole selection process about that. So we thought we'd just put this up here. Today we acknowledge the Mankind Project. So thank you, Sam, for speaking on behalf of them. And we give $100 a month, $100 per nonprofit agency, plus anything that you all do to support the nonprofits when they come. They have tables out there, or if you go to their site, if they have barrels out there, you fill them up and do such a great job of that. There has been some discussion, that perhaps we'll change the model a little bit, so we can give more support rather than solely $100, but maybe, keep them for longer. So I don't know if Beth can tell us about that another time if she changes it. So that's the nonprofit partners. Next slide. Diversity Circle, I mentioned before that we would have a list. This one goes from the latest to the earliest for this year, June, May, April, March, February, and January. I won't go through each, but these are monthly on Fridays. It's the last Friday of the month, is that right? Fourth Friday, because sometimes there's 5 Fridays, thank you. And that's run by Doug and Sri Devi, so thank you very much for that. Okay, so there's more about the beloved community. These are kind of like the departments. That's how I classified them in my mind. The other ones, run our center from the ecclesiastical perspective. These do too, but they're more departments in my mind, and they help run the operation from a different perspective. So we have our bookstore is run by Linda Wyman, and she does such a great job. Is she in the house? There she is. She does such a great job of putting on sales, and she talks to me constantly. Even before I got here, she was saying, well, I want to know your vision, and I want to put in the bookstore what we need. And she checks with us if are there any upcoming books we need to have, or, what do we need for this month? She really is very conscientious, thank you so much, Linda, of what you put in there, because this bookstore doesn't yield a lot of profit. It breaks even, thank goodness, and it's here to serve us on the books we need for class, or the tchotchkes we need, or gifts we need, or what have you. And I have a favorite store that I go to for my rituals and different things that I do. And Linda and I have yet to take a field trip. That's what I suggested that we do. But I would rival our bookstore with my store any day. It's smaller scale, but wait till you see it when you go, Linda. You have going on what they do, and you get my business just like they do. So thank you for that. Education, run by Constance Chapman, takes a look. There's a whole education team that takes a look at, and mine won't be the only voice. There are going to be times in here where I'm going to open it up for people to chime in, the leads, the co-leads, or anyone else around anything I'm talking about, and I'm really just giving you an overview of what's going on. So with regard to the education core, we meet monthly, and we take a close look at data and statistics so that we can see what to offer you. Who needs certificated classes if they're on the practitioner track? What classes seem to be of most interest to people? What I didn't put on any of these slides, I realize, is the survey that I would like to have us do that I've been talking about, and it's been so rigorous in so many areas. We really haven't given it I haven't given it the attention that it needs. Here's the thing that I want you to hear. We need to know what you like and don't like, what you will do and not do, what you will support and not support. Because guess what? We had to cancel the workshop, yesterday's workshop, because it didn't have enough registrants. When Reverend Jerry's class, 5 Gifts, which is still running, it has one more session. Luckily, we were able to get just enough registrants not to have to cancel it, but the only way we were able to do it was to extend the time frame and do a harder plug. To me, I can draw a conclusion about that. It's like, but I don't want to draw the wrong conclusion. Does that mean you're not interested in those things? Does it mean you don't want to come in person, or that you'd rather do it virtually? There's things that we don't know that we need to know so that we can offer you what it is that you'll support. Or else it doesn't make sense for us to offer it because we can't pay our facilitators, or it doesn't bear well for me to have to cancel a day before the session. I'm just being real with a facilitator. That doesn't show well for the center. So how do we get our arms around? We get our arms around what to offer, because we have had in the past a thriving educational core. And so we offer certificated, non-certificated classes, workshops, book study groups, which seem to be popular here. The marketing is a new committee that has recently been booted up. Reinhard Jolie is heading that up right now. We are still building what we look like, what our focus is going to be. I would really love for it to be a true marketing function, so that if we're doing events, the marketing team can add some support by suggesting how to advertise, where to advertise, what to say, how to make it more attractive so that we're getting people to sign up. So that's what marketing is all about. Compliance, the compliance team has been focused, led by Larry Wyman, who's on vacation right now, has been focused on COVID safety protocols. And so that has been rigorous because, you know, COVID is real, has been very real, and you have seen notices go out when we have someone that has let us know that they've tested positive, because we have an obligation to let people know. We had a conversation around whether and when to lift the mask restriction and how that goes. As you see, the signs are not on the seats anymore because we notice that people distance themselves. When you come into the center, and even as you're sitting right now, people sit in groups or they sit where they feel most comfortable. So we've done it very cautiously, very carefully, and that's what compliance has been about. Facilities use is our beautiful Susan Brecker, and that we stay away from the term rental. The reason is that it compromises our property tax exemption status if we are renting to for-profit, because technically it needs to be a not-for-profit and not for gain, believe it or not. And so, since I've been here, I have taken a look at what their requirements are, and on our facilities rental agreement, we have that covered on there, so that as we fill that out, we are assessing up front whether that fits in the right categories for us. And sometimes, privacy in this room, we stretch it a little bit, but I feel like I allow what I know I can discuss and justify with any assessor that comes out here that says, you didn't do this right, you shouldn't have allowed them to use your facility. Because when we have the AA group that meets over there every week, that's a community event in my mind. When we have, you know, the filming that happened out here in the parking lot at some point, to me, that's a community event. So, you know, I believe I can justify all of that, but I wanted you all to know why we're calling it facilities use and what it means, and we're increasing in that. We have a beautiful facility. Sanford Livingston and I are talking about renting, allowing use for our kitchen. We have a commercial kitchen. So if there are, like the food trucks or folks that need to prep their foods and they need a kitchen, we have a kitchen partnership. So there's ways that we can utilize our facility and bring in some income and also do community service. Facilities is headed by Sanford as a board liaison and Christopher Brown. Really, that's everything facilities here. And you'll see a slide, you may see a slide, or maybe we took it out. We have regular fire inspections. You know, the foliage back here was overgrown over the roof or the pipes or what have you. We get cited for that. So we tell our landscapers, they cut it back, done. Check. We communicate that. So we've had several findings with the last fire inspection that we were able to resolve. We're all good to go. And administration. So basically that's Constance and I working together to make sure overall that the operations of the center is working together for good. So anybody whose name I called, I know Larry's not here, but Linda's here, Constance is here. I don't know if Reinhardt is here, Susan isn't. You don't have to stand, but you can raise your hand. Let's give them some love. Thank you. Next slide. The bookstore. Okay, I talked a little bit, you know, I gave you the overview of all those different committees, and now we're drilling down just a little bit. So remember, I'm only giving you from the period April through June. In March, I know March was a long time ago. I'll remind you, we had an annual meeting. I know you might not remember some of that, but this meeting is intended to be a snapshot in time. And we only have the 2 months, April and May, ready because we just finished June, and I know Linda's pulling June numbers together. I told you earlier that we generally break even. You can see what our revenue is. If anyone needs me to read that out loud, I certainly will. Does anyone need me to read that? Okay, you can see it. All right. It shows the cost of goods, the gross profit, and the profit margin. You can see in May that the profit margin went up, and I'm sure that's probably because, Linda, you have so many sales and things, and you look at what is selling and get more of that. Okay. So, it fluctuates. It kind of depends. So thank you so much, Linda, and that's the bookstore. Next slide. Education. So some of this I mentioned. Reverend Jerry's 5 Gifts for Abundant Living. Was that 7 weeks? 7-week class. The tuition was almost $2,000. The net is still being determined because the class is not finished. We had professional practitioner studies, which ran from January to just finished in June. So this slide mentions the tuition of $5,100. We pay CSL for the curriculum because it's CSL's curriculum that we're teaching. The net tuition includes paying our facilitators. We pay our instructors and our teaching assistants or whatever, and the net to the center was just under $2,000. Oh, this is for the whole year of 2023. Yes, and we're partway through the year. So then we also had the Women's Transformation Group led by Reverend Jerry and Reverend Catherine that finished already, right? It was 6 weeks. Yes, the net was at almost $1,000. Living the Science of Mind, we had a couple book studies. Living the Science of Mind, that was another one that only had a couple of people in it. It ran anyway, but we're going to start putting minimums to classes and for people to sign up ahead of time so that we know when we have to cancel it or if it will hold. Reverend Sally, no, that was taught by Reverend Ikea and Tom Rose, Living the Science of Mind. And then there was the Aramaic Teaching of Jesus run by Reverend Sally, and it was on a love offering basis. If I'm not calling out the number, it's because I can't see it from here, and my slides are all mixed up at this point. The Diversity Circle is also on a love offering basis. So the net education income for the period April through June was just under $3,000, which is a lot lower than it has been in the past, but COVID changed everything. And I blame a lot of that on COVID. So, but we're doing good, but we need to do better, and we need to think smarter about what we're going to offer. Thank you. Next slide. So upcoming education and potential classes in the fall. So when the education ministry meets, remember I mentioned, we look at what we want to offer for the whole year. And so that means summer, or it was spring. So you had remember that flyer that's been out on the table? That's how that got put together. And then summer, I don't know that we're really running much in the summer, but we did look at the fall. And so that's what this is reflecting, because we're thinking about certificated classes. We need to think about that, especially if we have new people coming. We're going to need to offer foundations. And we always need to offer foundations so that people get the foundations of science of mind philosophy. So I'll be teaching that. We'll have 2 spiritual enrichment classes. There's new classes in the bottom left corner coming out of home office. So we just wanted to show you what those are, and we can choose from those. And then there's advanced consciousness studies. And the way that works is advanced consciousness studies. You have to take that as a prerequisite before you can take professional practitioner studies. However, you don't have to be licensed. If you don't want to be a licensed practitioner, you can stop there. Or if you want to license, you go on to the professional practitioner studies. I see your hand, yes. Yeah.
Advanced consciousness.
Can we have the mic on?
Advanced consciousness studies is just a way of really deepening your consciousness. And so you don't have to become a practitioner. And one of the things that they've changed, it used to be you had to have all 6 requirements to get into it. There's now a second way of getting into it, which is if there's 3 classes you need, and then the minister's approval. So you can get in with just 3 classes and do it. And then if you get the call during that year, there's a way you can have some time to finish your classes and get into practitioner studies. So, and I know we have a number of people in this congregation, in our membership, who have enough requirements to get into advanced consciousness studies. It's no longer 30 weeks, it's 28 weeks, but it's a really deep dive into how did my life get the way it is. And really deep dive. So if anyone's interested and want to know about the requirements, please send me an email and I can send you more about the requirements.
Thank you, Constance. Next slide, please. Yeah.
Just a quick question on, it said new classes from CSL. They provide all.
Can you give him the mic, Marie?
Hello. I was asking about the new classes that were listed, if these are things that are presented with the full curriculum. These are have been developed by CSL, and we just need somebody to teach them, because one of the things that might draw in more people is some new classes and new offerings.
Yeah, can you roll back to the last slide? What Robert is talking about is on this thank you, Maureen. On the previous slide? Yes, thank you. Where it says new classes from home office, bottom left-hand side. The challenge is knowing what people will take. It's tricky. We could offer it. We can find instructors to teach it. We have instructors here. It's a matter of if they will come. Some of it we'll need to experiment with to see. So that's some of the things that we talk about in the education core. Well, and what Robert said is to put out a poll. That was the intent of the survey, and it still is. But I'm really big on, if we survey, we need to do it really thoughtfully. And my thought was, because we need so much information in different categories other than just classes, my intent was to put together a full survey on the different areas so that we could gather information all at the same time. So it could have included something like that. So maybe I need to rethink that, and maybe we need to do a poll instead for the classes. I don't know if we need to or not.
Or I would say hello? Or I would say if anybody is getting the bug about wanting to find out from the survey and wanting to take the lead on working with Reverend Sunshine to put out the survey, that would be great if anybody is interested.
Thanks for that plug. I love that. I really think it would be important, because here's the reason why, just to pause on that for a minute. It's more than just education. I don't know who, to be honest, I don't know who is online. And some people have told me that they're members, that they come sometimes here in person, that they come on, virtually. But some people have not come back in person, and they're only virtually. So, I need to know about that in order to be able to plan for services. So it's a mixed bag. I see hands going up, and I want to get through this, but Maureen, can you go ahead and, thank you, take Cheryl's question?
So I think that that's an excellent segue into what your marketing folks need to be doing, because part of marketing is really understanding who your target is and where they come from. So whether they're coming virtually or whether they're coming in person, but that's a great opportunity to kind of like put some survey metrics into the marketing team so they can do some marketing analysis and targeting for you.
That's beautiful, thank you. And I meant to ask for a note taker, and I'm looking at Constance. Do you have any notes, paper, opportunity to take notes? You don't? We need somebody to take notes. I don't know. It is being live streamed, right? Huh? Yeah. Okay.
I'm a Berkeley brat, so there are opportunities for you to, for the local colleges, there are marketing students that would probably love to, as part of their, it used to be called $2.99 when I was there, as to help that marketing organization that you're beginning to have, to help them really do some of those kinds of analytics for you.
Yeah, that's great. That actually came up before to utilize some of the local college students for other things as well. And like our social media, which we'll get to, there's a slide in here. And while we're paused, are there any other questions about anything? I know that I'm opening up a Pandora's box. I want to get through this and then have a dialogue, but since we've opened it up, is there any other burning question or comment? Okay, and to answer your question, Constance, anything that someone's saying that is actionable, that's what I want notes on. That we need to explore or think about or whatever. Thank you, Cheryl, and for Robert. Okay, next slide. Marketing, speak of. We're currently building the infrastructure and visioning on it. We have been meeting. I know it's Reinhard, Beth is on the team, myself, and Helene. And we've been meeting monthly and taking a look at the different mediums through which we need to advertise or could advertise or have the opportunity to advertise. We're looking at being more consultative. Maybe this is what got your attention, Cheryl, for your comment. And obviously, you know, because we're thinly spread and ambitious. So we're pacing ourselves with all the different needs here. We do need social media leadership, so we're very aware of that and need to focus on that area too. Next slide. Facilities used, remember I talked about, we have a brochure. We have some folks who know to use this facility. It's been used by OSA, Oakland School for the Arts. It's been used for rehearsals, for music, for different business meetings, for memorial services, all sorts of things. We had our joint panel effort last weekend, which was lovely. It was really well used and created a lovely energetic. We had our practitioner graduation. Some of these are in-house events, our own events, and some of them are used by other folks. The Holmes Institute graduation, we donated our facility to that event, and we had 2 graduates, so that was fun. And then, what does that say? Oh, thank you. We have several events in June and May that are listed there that Susan has coordinated, and she gets a team together. You know, our AV team is on site for that, the janitorial, the setup. It's quite an effort to have this used. Now, what we didn't put on here was the net, what we netted from any of the financials. It nets small amounts, but, you know, decent. We break even with some of these things. My miss on that for not having, their net income is listed over there, isn't it? Okay, great. For each one, great. Sorry, I couldn't see that. for the period, 2,500 for the period. Next slide. This speaks more to Constance's role, administrative coordination. You know, we do quarterly giving statements that you all receive, and that needs to be put together. We have had in-house sessions that need to get set up. We need to do better on how we do hybrid. We don't do it well when we have classes, but in my mind, everything needs to be hybrid now, not only in person, but virtual as well. So we're working on that, but we have set up some classes, including registration in Breeze, event scheduling and planning, updated the layout of the Village News, which is weekly, and coordinated for a new IT services contract. So these are just some of the highlights that go on from an administrative level. Next slide. Here's some of our events that you've heard about already. We had the installation in March. That was the last period, but it was worth repeating. We had 2 listening circles. We had the Holmes Institute graduation that was mentioned again, the practitioner graduation. We've had a couple of pilot brunch services, as you've experienced today. And I'd love to take that word pilot off. However, we don't have like a consistent supplier yet. And so Sanford and I are working together, and he's utilizing his resources through his nephew, and who's a chef, and that cooking team, and then Vegan Me, he brought them in, which was great. Wasn't it great today? Yeah? So yay for Sanford and for all his ideas.
It brought in $445.
Okay, well, there you go. Thank you for that, Sanford. Here's just some pictures, you know, not to minimize it at all, but these things, is Larry in the house? Thank you, Larry. And I wonder, like, you're so sneaky. Like, I see sometimes the newsletter going out, it's like, where did they get that picture of me? I give you a lot to work with, because I'm totally like, you know, and you catch it. At times I don't realize. Here are some pictures from the installation. Those were our practitioners in the lineup, which was beautiful, and our musicians with the beautiful harp there with Destiny Mohammed. Next slide. This was the practitioner graduation that we just had. Can you believe it? It was just a few weeks ago. We've had so many things going on. Lovely. Next slide. And this was our oral panel day last week. I don't even remember anybody taking these pictures, but I'm glad they did, because this was when we got the results. And that's why I was, you know, grabbing them by the hand. I did grab Alice by the hand too, but some of them were coming out at the same time. So it was exciting, and it was long, and it was arduous, but it was so worth the planning effort for us to have Oakland Center, Heart and Soul, East Bay was involved. Monterey Centers for Spiritual Living, Reverend Robert was here. We had a candidate from Napa Valley. I mean, it was lovely to have all those centers here represented. Beautiful. Any other, what's after that? Okay, so these are events that are coming up. Silent auction, let me pause there. Do you want to give a plug for that?
So the silent auction is going great. We have a lot of donors that have come forward that they want to donate. I have you all on a list, and we're working on setting up the platform for the silent auction. So we're looking to open the silent auction to have people actually bid on it in August. So just keep your ear out to hear about the updates about that. For the people that have said that they wanted to donate something, we'll be reaching out probably in a week or two about how to go about doing that. And if you still have ideas about wanting to donate something, you're more than welcome to let me know, and I'll put you on the list and reach out to you. It could be anything. For example, just speaking with Nancy Hester yesterday, she's helping me to coordinate the silent auction, which is very wonderful of her, but also she's going to donate a felting experience to be able to felt a scarf. So it could be anything to donate your time and your anything creative or any type of service that you have, or if you wanted to donate something physical. So if you have questions, please let me know.
Beautiful. So the board got together to have a conversation around fundraising, and Elka is going to come up next. But I just wanted to pause here and say that we didn't want to bite off more than we could chew. And so we brainstormed a list of things to fundraise and then plotted it out to see if we could resource it. And so the silent auction was one of them. And there's probably a couple others in here too. So more pilot brunch service. You know, I really want us to have at least once a month a brunch service. It's just that we need to figure out who to have that with. Even if we have a couple of suppliers, we need to get that coordinated. But that's why it's not, I don't think we'll do every week because that's more in the notion. But once or twice a month would be great. And certainly in between or right after service and before we have something like this. Like with the graduation, I knew we had to have food or else people wouldn't have stuck around. And we had a really good turnout for graduation for our practitioners. So it's something that's on our mind. Bring a Friend Sunday. You heard in announcement today that we want to encourage people to bring people. And people are finding their way. Like, I meet everybody that comes out there, and I talk to them. I said, how'd you hear about us? You'd be surprised by the people who said online, which tells me that they're looking, they like what they see, and they're coming. So this is a good thing. It's like, you know, but we want people to bring someone with them. That will make it even better. The booths at the street fairs. So Beth and Linda Wyman are going to be at the Laurel District. When is that? August 12th coming up. That's right there in the Laurel District from 35th to High Street on MacArthur. And we missed another one in Montclair, but you know, these are opportunities for visibility. It's not necessarily that going to bring money in, but it shows people that we're here. And the marketing team is putting together a flyer, what do you call the little card? Like a distribution card? It's not a flyer, but you know, a little, a postcard so that people know and can take that. Oakland Pride, thanks to Reverend Jerry and her efforts, we participated in last year and we'll do again this year. Sam Ledione is taking the lead on the Pride celebrations. We missed the San Francisco Pride event by just a little bit because we didn't want to conflict with our practitioner graduation, but we'll be ready next year, and that's a money-making opportunity for us, the more volunteers we have. So Oakland Pride, Alameda Pride will be there. An outdoor summer tailgate party. This name changes. That's just my name for it. We've moved the date to August 26th. We needed more time to plan. And that really is an opportunity for us to utilize our facilities, take advantage of the good weather. Good weather? Do we have good weather? Whatever weather, not raining weather, and to celebrate together. New Member Sunday, you heard that earlier. We want to do that in September, so stay tuned for that. We are having, I know I keep saying this, I can't give you a date yet. I talk to Andy constantly, and I've been working with he and Kev Choice on a music concert. So let me give you a little bit more than that. Looking for the fall, we were looking for big name draws because we want to raise money. I'd like to fill the house, but you know, really, as we backed into the numbers, there's only a certain amount that we can make, and we'd have to put out a lot of advertisement for it, which is no problem. But to throw the name out there, we were looking at Ricky Byers. We were looking at names like that. She's booked, unfortunately, and so we weren't able to go with that, but we're working on it. And I really want to have this event. So if we can pull it off successfully, we'll do it in the fall. And if not, it will be in the early new year. And there's a callback for the Evening of Blessings, which is sponsored by the practitioners. Oh, you hear that, Dorothy? And so if you haven't come to that before, and Dorothy set a date for November 10th, it's on the calendar. We'll be doing that. So we do need more fundraiser events, and we need to watch our bandwidth to be able to sponsor it and host it. I believe, before you go to the next slide, can you just tell me, I believe is the financial slide, is that right? Okay, so with that, I am going to stop here. There will be time for community engagement, but I want to go ahead and have Elka Moritz, one of our trustees, come up and present on behalf of Debbie Morris, who's our treasurer. Elka, you want to come up? Let's give her some love.
Hi, I'm Elke. I'm new to the Board of Trustees, and like Reverend Sunshine Michelle said, I'm filling in for our treasurer, Debbie Morris. Oh, of course I can't see that. Yeah, let me take that. That's better. Now step down here. Yeah, I guess you're all reading this. This is a 6 months cash flow. Of course, you heard about part of that in the March meeting, and the regular income was $195,758, and the expenses $196,076. And if you can do a little math real quick, you will see that we came a little short of the expenses in the 6 months. The net loss was $318, and in actuality, it probably is more like $38,000, because that $37,000 was from the government grant that we had expected, and was, I think, on the balance sheet as a receivable. So it just moved from there into the actual cash box. Yeah. So. This is it. Oh, I thought we had two.
No, it's only one slide.
Oh, okay.
Is this one on? Mm-hmm. Can I chime in here with you?
Yes, please chime in.
No, you can stay up there. The ERC claim is for employee retention, and the total amount of that is $41,000, but the balance that is remaining to be received is for, they paid out for several periods, and so there's another part of that claim that's coming. But really what we wanted to say and speak to this, which is not new, is that we need more income. We need more revenue. And we are watching our expenses, as closely as we can, and we have sometimes unexpected things that come up, like our insurance increases. Certainly we budget for that, or we attempt to budget for that, but there are some expenses that have come in, and if our income is lower than through our donations, through, that's why we turn to fundraising, unless y'all have some other ideas for that. So that is, Elka's right, that number would have been larger as far as the loss, but that balanced out because of the monies that we did receive for the grant. Mm-hmm. So I have a question about this. Hang on.
Number one, I want to say thank you all for the information that is given. It is obviously, to me, a wonderful example of what we are doing. But as you have just said, as a community, are we operating at a profit or are we operating at a loss? And I understand that we always need to be doing fundraising. But as of right now, by those numbers, we're looking at a profit. I am asking, are we overall at a loss? Okay, good.
No, we're not.
That,
We're not operating at a profit. If the expenses are more than the income, we're at a loss,
thank you.
always. And yes, it's been pretty steady throughout the entire 12 months past. I would say around
It's right there.
maybe 8 to 10,000 a month.
So right there, if you just do, if you do the
It
math, you
varies
add
anywhere
318 and the ERC, which is a grant that got included in income, so we are operating at about a 38,000, approximately 37.5
Right.
loss for 6 months.
Which is more than we would like to see in the numbers, for sure. Yeah, we think, yeah.
And so it's a time for, let me just have you take a breath. I felt the constriction in the room. And so, you know, it's something to be concerned about. It's not new. And at the same time, to know that we're in this together and that we have to keep talking about it, that we have to keep coming up with solutions. Like, when the small things add up into the larger things. So when I talk about running classes, for instance, as an example, we don't want to run classes at a loss. That's an expense that we don't need. And some of the things that, so the other thing I'll say is Dow Becker and I, the bookkeeper, have been working really closely. You know, one of my on-the-job training tasks was to put together the budget, which was quite a feat. But it was a great learning experience because I was able to go line by line and understand and ask questions about what's in there so that we're categorizing it in a way that we can explain. And so that we can gain information about how much it costs for us to do this, or how much it costs to do that, and to decide if we want to do that or not. And we've cut back as best we can. And if we continue, I'm sure that's where some of your minds are going, if we continue at a loss, the board will need to then make some decisions as to what we stop, start, continue. Because we don't want to keep bleeding. Maureen, and then.
Hello? I wanted to say a couple of things. I think I felt the constriction in the room too. So one of the things I want to focus on is that there are new people coming to the center. We have, you know, we showed the numbers. So the momentum is there. Okay, I think that one of the things that this is a call for is for us to raise our creativity and to really think creatively about how we can go ahead and raise the vibration and the circulation and the abundance in this center. We have people who are wanting to come, who are hungry for this information. I mean, I make it a point to talk to new people when they come into the center, and they're crying, they're coming, they're saying, yes, I'm being cleansed. This is good stuff, right? So this is really good things that are going on. In terms of the finances, we need to think a little bit more creatively, and that goes back to my plug about the survey. If we get this survey out and we find out what people are looking for and wanting, then we're able to go for our educational courses and offer the educational courses that people are going to come to. If we look at, you know, how are we going to do our hybrid classes, you know, but this takes a community. So we need the brains that the divine has flowing in your body to come up with ideas. We need the energy and the motivation and the creativity that you have to bring it to us so that we can work together to make this happen. So I think that this is a real call to do that, is to really think creatively and to get motivated. This should be a motivation of like, okay, how can we do this? Because really the numbers are showing it's a positive thing. Reverend Sunshine's bringing down the house. I mean, every Sunday I am touched with what she's bringing to our center. And I know that the people sitting in the seats are doing it because I can see tears coming out of their eyes. Just today I had people telling me how cleansed they were, that they come here to get cleansed. So I mean, the vibration and the energy is there. We just need to think creatively about how we're going to bring the circulation back to this place. So.
Well, I just want to say that that when I saw this, the first thing I thought was, God is so good. Look at this. We could have been $40,000 in the hole, and we are at $318 in the hole. Now that to me is an example of the abundance of the universe. You know, that we don't want to say that, oh, that means everything's okay. We don't have to do anything. We don't have to pay attention. But we got through the pandemic with the PPP loans, and we didn't go into the hole. We're paid off. There are other centers who closed during the pandemic, and we did not. And again, it's not that we want to rest on it, but I don't think there's any reason to go, like this. That's where we need to be. I want to be grateful for what we've got, because it's through the gratitude that it'll grow. And so I just wanted to say that God is good.
Thank you. We have lots of hands going up. So I see Judith and I see Cheryl, and and I see Robert. So I'm creating a stack. And this is going into, is the next slide community dialogue? Oh, great. Oh, we're right on schedule. I knew the money would do that. That's why we put it to last. But to build on what Constance said, I just want to mention, we can take that. Let's leave that there. I do want to say that we're not the only ones. There are many spiritual centers that have closed in CSL, that are consolidating, that are struggling, if I could use that word, to make things work. There are many who had choirs and no longer have choirs. There's a lot of change and transition going on, so I want us to keep it in perspective, in context. So I saw Judith, Cheryl, and Robert, and I will facilitate this conversation.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to ask, I remember when I was on the board and reviewing finances regularly, that we had the land sale, and from the land sale we had a very large fund of several $100,000 that were in reserve and were not to be dipped into unless, I guess, there was a dire emergency. But I wondered if that money is still there and if it's invested and if we have income from those investments.
There is, I'm not fully prepared nor to answer that, but what I can say is, yes, we do have reserve accounts. We have several reserve accounts that are populated. I don't have that information right here, and they are invested, if I'm not mistaken. We would have to get back to you on that, but that was highlighted at the annual meeting, and that money is still there. So the reserves are still there. Catherine, Reverend Catherine, you have?
A great deal of that money that was set aside from the land sale was set aside specifically for upgrading and repairing the plant. We replaced the entire roof for $60,000. We did a lot of work during the pandemic to build the plant, our property, our facility back to the pristine area, that was supposed to be, because we had a lot of changes that needed to be made. So the money that was earmarked for that has been spent to good use. So it wasn't just frittered away for operational, because it was earmarked, and we're not allowed to spend it on operational expenses, but for maintenance and improvement of the facility. So. That's what Reverend Sunshine Michelle is going to check into.
Yes. There is still money in the reserves, yes. And what she's speaking to is if the money was restricted for a certain purpose, it must be used for that purpose, which much of it was. And as a matter of fact, during my candidating weekend, one of my favorite parts of it is I was greeted out in the parking lot by the facilities team who led by Paul, walked me around. I'm sure all the candidates he did this with, I'm just speaking about my experience, and told me every nook and cranny that was redone, how it was done, and everything. So most everything in our facility has been touched by the monies that were raised for that purpose. Cheryl? Yes. Thank you.
Let me dovetail on Constance's comment. I'm a small business owner.
That's a T, constant comment.
It is.
Sorry.
So I'm a small business owner, and COVID decimated a big chunk of my business. It does take some recovery, and so I'm in support that God is good and things like the ERC credit and the I got an EIDL loan during that period, so I get it. But I also increased my marketing and my website to do some serious work about bringing me business. And I landed during that period that the business dipped, I landed Trader Joe's as a national account for my business based upon my status. But that's because every page of my website is meta tagged. So if we could put some effort into making sure that we add meta tags and blogging and use SEO to draw in more of those virtual attendees, more of the folks that will take classes. All of that is stuff that helps to really bring revenue. We're back to where we were pre-COVID. So it's about SEO.
Yeah, for sure. Talk to Cheryl, remember her name. And you bring up some great points, and you heard me say that it's not just social media, it's marketing, and I know SEO is a part of that whole organization there. And what I also want to call our attention back to is there are so many priorities, at least since I've been here, that not only learning the organization, but not trying to, because we are doing it, put it in perspective and try to, and to see like what to address first. So there's a lot of competing needs that we have had, and this is certainly one of them. So it is on the list. Robert is next. Sam?
Staying on the money topic. What Constance says is absolutely true, and it's also important that we talk about money as adults. And that means being really honest about the numbers, what we want to do, how we can make that happen, all of that. And to me, that's not at all, in opposition to a abundance consciousness and trusting in the universe. And when just for a little historical comparison, in that period of time between Reverend Joan and Reverend Jeff, a lot of people left this center. And when Reverend Jeff came in, we needed, it was a rebuilding time, which Reverend Jeff took on. And he spoke to the congregation from the pulpit about the money. And I remember him once saying something like, we need like $50 every Sunday from each person, each seat in this place in order to meet our expenses. And I don't think there's any problem with being that explicit with the congregation about where we are and what we need. Another thing is the facilities before the pandemic, the facilities were bringing in a couple of $1,000s a month, which were helping us to break even. So that's an area of I think we have a rich a rich facility to offer here for the facilities use, and I think that's something else that's worth pursuing. But I think we're in a rebuilding period again, and there's lots of ways to do it. And as Maureen said, we need to bring our creativity to that. I serve on the member council, the CSL member council now. There's a lot, I mean, you said you blame the pandemic. Yeah. Something like 100, 150 centers have closed. Some have consolidated. CSL home office is struggling. So it's everywhere. And so this is a rebuilding period. We have lots of creativity, lots of energy, ways to do it. I really like the phrase you used, though, Reverend Sunshine Michelle, which was thinly spread and ambitious. That was well said. So it really does take all of us. Boy, I think I just talked myself out.
I love that. Thank you, Robert. The next one is going to be Eliza, but before Eliza speaks, I thank you for saying that, and the board has talked about, I've heard about and appreciate Reverend Jeff's pointing out how much is needed per person to run this center. We've talked about that. I've talked to Dow about that, so we're also grappling with coming up with that number, not even grappling with. We just need to figure out what goes into putting that number together and then put it to the board, and we work with that. But I'm with you and don't have a problem coming to the congregation. As you can see, I ask for what I need and I ask for what we need and share information. So I look forward to doing that. And thanks for calling out, this is a rebuilding period, which we all knew. We had contract ministers in here to, before a senior minister was here, and they were holding it up as well. And now you have a senior minister in here, and I'm here full-time and more than full-time, trust me. And looking at every aspect of this place. And so we are in a rebuilding period, and I do want to call that out. Thank you. We have Liza, and then we have,
Helene
Liza
has a
says
question.
no. Helene is next? No, Liza? I did see your hand, but you took it down. Okay. Helene?
Hello. Okay, I just wanted to kind of jump off of what Maureen had been saying, and it's related to Robert. The number per person goes down the more people we have. And so obviously we want to invite more people here. So 2 dates that were mentioned here is the Bring a Friend on July 23rd and Community Picnic in the Parking Lot, which is August 27th. And
6th. Saturday.
Oh, okay. I remembered it wrong. Sorry. Okay, they know, August 26th. And there is the one community engagement event that Beth was talking about in between that. So let's, focus on those 2 dates and bring people, invite people. Our intention, I'm part of the marketing team. Our intention for the marketing team is to have a new piece of something welcome information about the center for the 23rd. And we will have enough for everyone. So invite your friends, have them get the information, enjoy the service, enjoy the lunch, and then take some of those pieces, and in the month before the 27th, talk to your friends. Let's make it a party and have, and again, think about, everything is brighter with more people.
Was that your hand, Reverend Jerry, that went up and down? No. Well, hang on just a second, hang on. So what I want to say right here, you're next, you're in queue. What I want to say, I see you, Constance, so it's Reverend Jerry and then Constance, but what I'm going to say is I'm looking at the clock. I promised that this would be no more than 2 hours. We started at 1:15. So I'm aiming for the next 15-ish to 20-ish minutes for us to wrap this up. And I also want to call to your attention this slide for community engagement and dialogue, because these are some of the questions that you can be thinking about, that I want to frame it on the survey in a way where we get the data that we need. I want to ask the question in the way, I want to know what we want first before we ask the question, so that the question we ask gives us the data and we can make the data actionable. And so here's some things like attendance, I mentioned earlier. Who's attending in person and virtually, has the post-pandemic space. We don't want to blame everything on the pandemic, but the reality of it is the pandemic changed everything. The way we do spiritual community, it changed it. So I'm saying this post-pandemic spiritual community space, what does it change for you? For each and every one of you, if anything. Or if people have been talking to you, like Maureen was able to speak to a conversation that she had with people. I'm able to speak to that too. I'm assuming you are too. I hope you're talking to people. So we need to know this kind of information. Education, what kind of classes do you want to take? Let alone anybody else. What do you want? Or I'm not interested in taking classes. We need to know that too. Because guess what? Education used to bring in a lot of revenue here. And if it's down, guess what? There's a plug right there that's missing. Events. What kind of event would you like to attend? Because I don't want to put some effort into us sponsoring an event and not have the turnout that we need. Granted, we need marketing and we need to be thoughtful about how we get it out there. Giving, tithing. What is your giving and tithing like? Has it gone down? Well, I'm not blaming you or anything, but the reality of it is things have changed for us in the pandemic too. Some folks have lost jobs, changed jobs, or what have you. Volunteering. What is your commitment to volunteering and other areas? So I just wanted to acknowledge the slide that was up there. We have Reverend Jerry, and then who did I say next? Constance.
Actually, my hand was not up. It was behind Catherine, Reverend Catherine, and I was just pulling it back over. But since you acknowledged me, I want us to trust, because we have been through difficult times. Even in my own business, I understand this. It takes time to recover. And I think all of these activities and ideas that we have in motion here are really great. And I want us to be patient, because it's going to take a little time to curve back in and bring all these things to fruition so we can build up our monies and put the butts in the seats, as we say, or whatever. So I'm kind of surprised. This is the first forum that I've been to forever that hasn't had a slide of our bank balances. Is there a reason for that? Or, the different accounts, we have many, many different accounts. I was just surprised not to see the details.
No, it was provided, actually. I mean, we'd have to break it down to put it up there, but I was told, and it seemed as though, because I was leading the conversation as well, that we were giving a snapshot instead of the full P&L. And so that's the only other comment I have.
Okay, I was just curious, because
sorry to disappoint if that was the case, but it is what it is.
And I have one other thing to say. Regarding our pledge program, we have quite a few people who have put in a pledge but haven't put in a penny. So I'm wondering what the outreach is for that.
There hasn't been any. That has not been on my mind.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea to maybe consider reaching out to those individuals who put in a pledge card and see, just see what's up.
And then there's some who, like for instance, we had someone who paid their full pledge in January.
Sure.
And so that boosted the income, which was great. But guess what? We're not going to see anything else from them.
So basically hold the faith. I think we're moving in the right direction for sure.
Yeah. Constance.
This is actually going to be me and Sally. I'm going to give it to Sally first because she's got the numbers for you.
I wanted to respond to Reverend Jerry's question about the numbers on the balance sheet. If you go out to the Board of Trustees link on the website, we publish the meeting minutes there, and that information is there.
Thank you, Reverend Sally.
Yeah, and what I want to say is that, as I'm sure most of you know, Centers for Spiritual Living, Science of Mind, started as a teaching organization. We did not start as a fundamentalist, as a church or anything else. And that we used to get a lot but something new is emerging, and we talk about this in our education core. There's something new is emerging, and we don't know what it is yet. And we're not the only ones. Everyone is all over the world, in all CSLs, trying to figure this out. So what I've been doing for myself is I really stopped and I thought, okay, how have I changed since that pandemic? Because it did change me. And what am I doing differently? And how is that showing up both in what I'm doing here and in the rest of my life? Because that, I think, rather than just saying what classes will you take, I think that might give us a clue as to what's emerging. So for example, like I was talking to a friend of mine, we both realized that we used to have people over for dinner. Now we think about it and go, it's too much work. Because we're so used to just being alone, And so how have we all changed from this experience that we've all been through? And so that's something I just want to put out.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Hang on with the hands. So I saw Robert, I saw Eliza, I saw Cheryl, I saw Helen, and I want to pose and I see Carmen. Oh, wait a minute. Hang on a second, because I want to hold. So Robert, Eliza, what did I say? Cheryl, can I switch, since you've spoken, can I go with Helen and then Cheryl and then, thank you, there's Carmen. But let me ask, Helene, we are live streaming, right? Is there anyone on live stream that has a question? And you can pose that to them, and then if you want to, no, there's not. Okay, well now is their opportunity for them to type it in and for you to bring me the question. And so let's go with, let's hold your hands. There's Robert first. I got the cue, so you don't have to keep raising your hand. So go with Robert and then Eliza.
Okay, two quick things. One is, I mentioned I'm on the member council. We are having a gathering, which I've promoted a little bit before, September 29th and 30th. Part of the goal of that is about engaging members in the life of their community. So I think that benefits everybody. It helps to build things. So I'm just encouraging you all to promote that as well. That's number one. Number two is the other value of education, besides just bringing in some revenue, is that it builds bonds between people. It's like if you're coming to Sunday service and Sunday service only, you only have so much depth in terms of your involvement with the community. When you take a class, you form bonds that go much deeper and keep you, much more engaged and involved in the community. So I think that's an important value from the education that we need to keep in our minds, and also the value that comes out of being in person, because you form bonds in person that you don't online. I'm complete.
Thank you, Robert. Eliza?
Thank you. I just wanted to bounce off of what Constance and Robert both said. I loved your question, Constance, how have I changed, and how has my community changed? How has my physical neighborhood where I live in Berkeley changed, or how has my church community changed? And how do I respond to that? And I wanted to say for myself and tithing, I'm making more money, so my tithe went up. And I know other people in this community that's true for also. And so, that person that paid everything in January, I'm not claiming that we're not getting any more. I don't know, they might get some more money and tithe some more. In God, all things are possible. And to continue to be grateful for what I have and what I'm able to share. And, that's an important practice for me. I'm complete.
I love that. Thank you for the abundance consciousness. Eliza? Helen?
Something that we've lost during the pandemic, and actually I think a little before then, something when I first started coming when Joan was here, one thing that I thought really built community was every service ended, we all joined hands and sang, "Let there be peace on earth, let it begin with me." And there was something about that, doing that every week with everybody here, Right now we have a variety of musical groups. There's not a coherence. And so I would like to suggest for building community that each Sunday we pick some song and we all sing it together. And I think maybe people are getting close enough. Soon we'll be able to join hands, and maybe you're not doing community singing still because of COVID, but I think that is something we could do again and was really helpful in the past.
Thank you, Helen. Can I have this mic on too, please?
Who was next?
We have Cheryl Archer.
I was just going to build again on what Constance said, that things are really changing and that people just are not engaging. I mean, there have been studies on it that say people are just not coming. Fully back, and that we do need to understand what it is, and it may not be. I personally don't do classes because I just don't have the bandwidth. I'm raising my teen daughter, and I've got a business to run. But we do need to look at what people are looking for and make sure that that is part of our effort to understand how people are engaging in community and do that, whatever that is.
Thank you, Cheryl. We have Carmen.
Here I am. Hi. One thing I wanted to say, oh, it's not on yet.
I think we just need to give time for her to bring the mic up. So just pause when there you go.
Okay. I did want to say that there has been a shift in terms of people, from the pandemic, and thank you, Constance, for that. You're just so on it. But there is those individuals who do want to go back into communities, but they're being very cautious as to where they go. And so I want to engage people to come to church in a way that, just talking about the spiritual principles, using the principles of science of mind at my work, talking about different things, not necessarily saying coming to my church, because then that turns a lot of people off, but just talking about the philosophy or praying with somebody at work or on a bus or things like that. I found out about this church through a women's group, not necessarily somebody invited me, but just happenstance. And so we can do that, and also have been part of a community that started over, and just praying, I pray as I come up this hill that the seats are full every Sunday, that there are more people coming, that the seats, that you vision. As science, as metaphysicians, that's what we do. You vision these seats being filled every Sunday. You vision for all that we need. So I just wanted to share that. Thanks.
What I love about this, thank you, my practitioners, for holding up the consciousness. It is about principle. It's the both and. Thank you, Robert, for holding up the reality of the thing. It's both and. We need to talk about what the reality on this physical plane is, but also keep in mind the consciousness of and the abundance consciousness of. So we can do both of those, and it takes all of us. Elena, did I see your hand? No, I saw your hand over here, so.
I'm coming back to the constriction we felt, because I always think the cure for that often is looking at the big picture, and that's what we're all here to do, is look at the big picture.
Can you hold the mic straight?
And we are coming out of a period that's been one of things closing down, like winter, right? And at the beginning of spring, when you see the little plants, the fields aren't full, but they're going to be. And I think what happens tomorrow is based on our consciousness today. And if we look at what's happened in the past and constrict around it, we're not having that expansive consciousness that will allow the growth tomorrow. And I'm going to make a plug for the classes and for practice, because my experience with the pandemic with a small business was I'm doing better than ever. What I attribute it to is not my own efforts, it's my practice. That the classes I was in for several years finally made me practice regularly. And that made all the difference. And it's made a difference in terms of feeling more a part of the community, feeling closer to people, getting to know people. And it's also made a practice in my consciousness, and that's made a practice in my outside life. So like you said, you're trying to say, I think it all works together, you know. And I will make a plug for what Robert said. When Reverend Jeff said that, I had no idea what it cost to keep the lights on and everything. I was like, oh, I'm not giving enough. And I immediately increased it. And I remember not long after that, we were in an annual meeting and we were going over the profit and loss and everything and the expenses. And the person giving the presentation said something like, oh, and this costs $5,000 a month. And I heard someone behind me go, oh, you mean $500 a month? Well, no, it was $5,000 a month. Well, sometimes we don't really realize just how big an organization this is and how much it takes to keep things going. So having the reality in front of us and keeping that open consciousness. And the other thing I was going to say is, this is not a bake sale moment. Being short $6,000 or $7,000 a month is not a bake sale moment. Fundraising is great. It's about getting new people in. And the way we get new people in is, it's the marketing team, and it's Reverend Sunshine, but it's the consciousness that everyone brings every Sunday, because that's what people feel when they walk in, and that's what makes them want to come back.
Yeah, thank you. I saw your hand, Deborah. I'm going to hold at Deborah, and you can give her the mic, but before you speak, Deborah, I see you, Sam. Hang on just a second. I'm watching the time. And so we started about 1:20. So at 3:20 we will end. So I'm going to let Sam, do you have one from online?
Yes, from
hang
online.
on, don't say it. Don't say it. I just asked. That's a yes. Okay, thank you. We're going to take those two, and then we're going to pause. I'm just telling you so you can just get ready for it, right? And then we're going to prepare to close. So even if you have something, if you're like me, you'll go home after something like this, and you'll sleep on it and wake up with something. Hold that thought. Email me, email Constance. Email us both, as a matter of fact. And then we'll factor it into whatever the next step is from here. Okay? Does that work? All right. Let me go to online first. Sam?
Okay, this is a comment from Alice Knutson online. She suggests that the words to our songs on the screens during service. So the words of the songs to be posted on the screen during service.
Oh, that goes to Helen's comment. Thank you, Alice. We love you. And thanks, Sam. Deborah?
Number one, I want to say thank you, everyone, for showing up to this first open forum, because this has been one of the most engaging forums I have ever been to.
Oh, engagement. Great.
I want to thank you, Reverend Sunshine, for absolutely opening the doors for us to have these types of conversations and to resolving them on the spot. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's all I wanted to say.
Isn't that look at Spirit? Look at the note that we're going to pause on. And let me ask this question. If there is someone out there that has not spoken yet, that has something they want to say, now is your opportunity. Whoa, 2 hands. Jody, and then Andrea.
Thank you. Is it on? Thank you, everyone. This is so beautiful, and it's encouraging. I want to share with all of you, we talk about Dr. Dan, and I want to share with you the energy that came from our having those daily meetings has sustained many of us, and there's a growth process in it. So that might be one of your classes. I'm complete.
Thank you, Dodie. Andrea?
I have been coming to this community, but I'm not yet a member because I don't have a whole lot of financial resources for right now. But
can I just stop you and say that's not a reason not to be a member? But anyway, we can talk about that on the side.
Okay, so what I'm thinking about is just about what happened today, about Reverend Sunshine's sermon, and it's like, you know, like what was the name of the music that they were playing at the beginning?
Wake up? Oh,
Yeah.
Wake up, everybody?
Yeah. It's like, you know, that song is located in time, in that time, and we can make our own new song from where that one leaves off. And it has to do with the vision, like, you know, empowering ourselves to take the vision that Reverend Sunshine gives us and then to share it as well. I think that could be shared in terms of marketing materials. You know, if there's a way in which we shared our own experiences with the things that Reverend Sunshine is talking about, because engagement and the progress of the individual and the community is really what it's all about. That's all for me.
Look at that. One of our new members. Is there anyone else that has not spoke? We have time for one more. Anyone else that has not spoken? Do you have anything to say? Okay. Well, you can email Constance and I both, or if you need to email me privately, that's fine. You can also email Maureen French, Maureen@oaklandcsl.org as our board president. And I believe now is, what's on the last slide? Oh, yeah, thank you. Of course, I knew that. Thank you for sharing your time, your talent, your treasure. It doesn't have to just be treasure in the form of money. It's sharing your presence and your consciousness as community that makes us a community together. Yes, it requires our resources too. But you know what? I told the story early on, Spirit's giving me again, where we have someone, a part of this community that doesn't come in person, that mails in $1 with a handwritten note regularly. Do you know that is one of my favorite people? You know why? It's about consciousness. All of y'all are my favorite people, by the way. It's about consciousness. It's interrupting the story that, oh, I can't do this unless I do this. I accept you just as you are and with what you have to bring and to offer, because you are the gift. And with that, let us pray. Anything else, Maureen? No. Okay.
I was going to ask the practitioner, why don't we stand up and bring some vibration back into this place?
Okay. Look at that. I love that. Practitioners, I want you that are standing, I want you to start a chamber of prayer. Pray right where you are. What I know for sure is that God is all there is, and this vibration is meant to. And we are loved, and we are sound, all perfect and complete and abundant. We are lifted, this Oakland Center for Spiritual Living, and I know all is well. We are lifted from lack and limitation into abundance. We are We love you, Lord. We give thanks for answered prayer. We give thanks for this breath, for knowing beyond what we know, because you know all. You know how to heal us. You know how to lift us. You know how to help us when we have doubt. You know how to instill faith and trust in us, and for us to cross over into our power. And I claim that now. I lift our collective voice into these divine ethers, knowing that we stand in our power here at the Oakland Center for Spiritual Living, that we are whole, perfect, and complete, that we are thriving in our community, that we have the butts in the seats that we need for the butts in the seats, that people are able to give of their time, talent, and treasure abundantly, that they expand in consciousness, and to the degree that they can reach out, reach in to reach out, that they are showered. We are showered with abundant blessings as we give and receive in circulation. Thank you, Lord. Thank you. Thank you, God. Thank you so much. I lift this up knowing that love and law activates this word. It is already done. It is already fulfilled, and it is already made so. Praise God. And so it is. Thank you for coming.